Women business leaders in Southeast Asia are gathered in Manila this week for the ASEAN Women's Business Conference. Key stakeholders are calling for more efforts in closing the gender gap in the region, which they say could unlock a stronger and more inclusive economic growth in the ASEAN bloc. Women make up 51% of the ASEAN bloc's over 620 million population. And yet women, who represent both the productive and reproductive force, continue to be underrepresented, underpaid, and underserved. The average gender gap in labor participation is estimated at 19%, while the average gender pay gap is around 15 to 16%. Based on studies, closing this gap will boost the ASEAN region's total GDP by a third by the year 2025. Yes, that's 30%. The question is, how? The Indonesian Business Coalition for Women Empowerment believes education is key. Latest data show, in the Indonesian context, there's a 50% wage gap between men and women in low-skills jobs. This gap narrows as you go up the ladder, 21% for those who finish high school and just 6% for those working in the banking sector.
But that's not enough. We need to push a bit further, and not just the government but the corporate sector as well. The corporate sector needs also to open up for women to take up leadership position, to go from at the entry level to go to the middle level management, because at the moment only 20% middle level managers are women. So we need to increase that. At the very top, only 5 to 6% are women.
Australia, a developed economy that has its own gap to fill, is all for pushing for women empowerment in the region.
80% of that aid must deliver an outcome for women and girls, a positive outcome. Women are most likely to be hurt in natural disasters, and it takes longer for them to be rehabilitated after a natural disaster. Women are more likely to be found in, say, human trafficking circumstances, or in domestic violence.
Australia is among a handful of countries with a special envoy for women and girls. It's ranked 46th in the World Economic Forum's 2016 Gender Gap Report. Female CEOs aren't quite the norm yet, but economies have been making strides. In the US, for example, 32 female CEOs made it to the list of Fortune 500 this year. If you think that's a small number, well, it's already the biggest proportion of female CEOs since the list began. Here in the Philippines, an estimated 30% of companies have women in top management. The Philippines is perched on the 7th spot in the Global Gender Gap Report. And it's not just about seeing female tycoons leading some of the country's biggest firms. It's also about the women who are powering micro, small, and medium enterprises. An estimated 61 million women entrepreneurs own and operate MSMEs within the ASEAN bloc. One such enterprise is Bote Central, a coffee company owned by Vi Reyes, who is also head of the Coffee Alliance of the Philippines.
All the vertical parts of the value chain of coffee are women-led. So women are more patient. Women are more of the detailed kind of person than the men. Women are more judicious in their work. You can depend on them every day. They are more nurturing.
Like the other panelists, Vi believes women empowerment isn't about competing with the men, but recognizing the need to share opportunities equally to help build a more prosperous society. Michelle Long, ABS.